What's happening, YouTube? Hope everyone's been having an amazing weekend so far. Today, we're going to talk about the evidence for Jesus Christ. Simply put, all evidence pertaining to his life, his existence, his death on the cross, and his eventual rising from the dead, right? His resurrection. Obviously, we don't have any proof. We don't have any proof that God exists. We don't have any proof that God doesn't exist. And what you'll actually find in everything in life is that it all comes down to evidence and theory. And the reason why I'm a Christian is because all of the evidence for this world points to Jesus Christ being the truth. So for me, it's a given. It's a no-brainer. So I'm going to show you all of the evidence that actually convinced me that Jesus Christ really is the way, the truth, and the life. So let's just kick it off. So the first piece of evidence that I want to point you guys to are the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So these are four written accounts of Jesus Christ of Nazareth's life and ministry, his death and eventual resurrection. So Matthew and John, they were eyewitnesses, and even states in the Gospels that they were eyewitnesses to the life of Jesus. Luke and Mark, they knew eyewitnesses. So one could argue, well, Mark and Luke, they weren't really there, so how could they really know? Well, it's simply, imagine I have friends who know who you are, and I know what the stories are being circulated, and I can go and do some investigation, speaking about people who knew Jesus, who are reliable. I can write a book that way. Just because I wasn't physically there doesn't mean that my information is not reliable, right? So we have two eyewitness accounts and then two people who knew eyewitnesses. And Mark and Luke, they were disciples of Jesus, but they weren't his closest apostles. They definitely saw him, probably met him. Okay, so we got the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So these are four different perspectives of the life of Jesus, all claiming that he existed. You've also got the Pauline epistles, right? 13 books of the New Testament, where St. Paul has written to various churches, but he's included, right, the information about Jesus. So you've also got another person who is, claiming about Christ. You've also got Ignatius of Antioch. You've got Clement of Rome, and you've got Polycarp, and these were disciples of the apostles, specifically Paul and Peter and John, right? So these guys knew the apostles. They wrote about Jesus Christ, or they wrote about what, the doctrine, etc., etc. They may not have ever met him. There's claims that Ignatius met Jesus when he was really young. However, that point is there. So we got many people writing about Jesus Christ. So we have so many different accounts. Now, some people may argue that this could all be a bunch of nonsense. People could just be lying about something, or it could be a big fat hoax. Well, we'll go on to that near towards the end of the video. But I just want to say, what do these guys really have to gain from it all, right? Why are we going to write about, why are we going to write a story which isn't true, and then we're going to be led to our eventual deaths for it, our persecution and then our deaths? Wouldn't that be amazing? Shall I make up a story right now to overthrow Rome and, destroy this whole political system, but I myself going to die for it? Why would I go through that why would I go through that if I was just lying? So it doesn't make sense. And also in Paul's epistles, I can't remember exactly where it is, but he mentions that Jesus Christ appeared to around 500 people at once. At once. Now, either all those people were tripping on acid, and they all saw a hallucination at the same time, all having the same hallucination, which is so unlikely. Or it's the fact that it really happened. And it's actually more likely that it did happen, because if you read this, or if, Paul was speaking about this, and I wasn't a believer, all I can say is, hey, where are those people? Can I go talk to them? I'll go and talk to them, find out that it was a load of nonsense, come back and basically class Paul as someone who's talking a load of rubbish. The reason why there was so much weight to what these apostles were saying is because it was all backed by the truth. People couldn't actually prove it. And what they were actually seeing was the power of the Holy Spirit. It was all the wonders and miracles that caused so many people to come to Jesus. And it was all the miracles and all of the boldness and the speeches that the apostles gave during, the book of Acts, which basically speaks about, the spread of Christianity. It was all for these reasons that people were coming together and believing. So the power of Jesus was just flowing all through these apostles and St. Paul, which was bringing more people to Christ. Now, if it was all a load of nonsense, it would have just been squashed. It would have just been absolutely squashed. And moreover, we've also got the letters of Peter, and we've got the letter of Jude. So we think we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who also wrote the letters of John and Revelation. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Paul, Peter, and Jude. Those are 7 accounts just off the New Testament. And like I said, if it was all a load of nonsense, right? Do we really believe that all these 7 guys were just crazy cuckoos? Then why did this whole thing spread? if those people, right, if humans haven't really considerably evolved, like we have such higher intellect, 2,000 years later, which obviously we were pretty much the same, all we had to do was go and fact check them. Go and talk to that person, go and talk to that person, and it would have all just been squashed. But no, these guys were talking about something legitimate. And that's, and the evidence stacked up. And that's why it gained so much traction. So just from the Bible alone, we've got 7 written accounts about Jesus Christ. Okay, now I've got some evidence from Google, okay? And I just wanted to show you some non-biblical sources, okay? So we went through the biblical sources. To be fair, I didn't actually go over. We've also got the epistles of Peter, John, and that's it. I think those are all the biblical sources for the evidence of the life of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. We have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Paul, Peter, and then John's letters, right? We could say, we could probably minus John because he wrote the Gospel of John and Revelation and the letters of John. We've also got Jude as well, so we can add him in there. So there's many accounts of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. But one could argue that this would be quite biased, right? If I'm going to be arguing in the favor of the evidence for Jesus and I'm just going to use biblical sources, so people who were Christians, one could argue that that might not be a very unbiased reporting right there. So I'm going to show you some secular people, some non-biblical people. Okay, the first person is Josephus. This was a Jewish historian who mainly wrote about the accounts of I believe Judaism or Jewish history and the Roman history. He writes, look at this, a Jewish historian called Josephus in his work Antiquities of the Jews mentions Jesus, his brother James. Now I think that is very, very important because you've got a non-biblical person confirming Jesus Christ and that he had a brother. And in the Gospels, it's noted that James was Jesus' brother. So if we, right, bear with me, my uncle's calling me. If we have a non-Jewish person claiming that, and it's accurate within the gospel, then we could probably go and say the gospel's accurate, right? But maybe that might be too much of a leap of faith. But we've got someone here who's non-biblical speaking about Jesus. We've also got Tacitus. The Roman historian Tacitus in his Annals mentions Jesus, Pontius Pilate, the crucifixion, placing the event within the time frame described in the Gospels. Wow! So we've got someone outside of Christianity speaking about Pontius Pilate, who was the governor of Judea at that point, who sentenced Jesus to death. We've got the death that Jesus suffered, which was crucifixion, and we've also got a written account of Jesus Christ himself. Wowza! So we've got many people writing about this person. Okay, next person is Suetonius. The Roman historian Suetonius mentions Christians and their leader, who's called Christus, and believe this is Latin, in his work The 12 Caesars. Wowza. Pliny the Younger, the Roman governor of Bithynia, mentions Christians and their worship of Christ in his letters to Emperor Trajan. So we've got people who are at least, maybe not so much confirming, they can't actually say, oh, I saw Jesus and I know Jesus lived, but you've got a bunch of people, especially this Pliny guy, and Suetonius, who have said, yes, I can confirm there are a bunch of Christians who worship the man called Christ. Okay, so at least we can say we got a bunch of Christians who are worshipping a man called Christ. So at least we can say that these people, knew there was a man called Jesus, Christ, and that Jesus existed. I think that's a good enough amount of evidence, and I just want to show you something really quickly. Just want to show you one more thing. Now, this is often contested, but look at this, right? Who is the most written figure in ancient history? As in, who is the most historically well-documented person in all of ancient history? And it's pointing to Jesus Christ. Just go and read a bunch of articles. Like, there is literally no argument among anybody who is worth their salt that there was a man called Jesus Christ who walked on this earth, right? Every single scholar of antiquity or any historian, don't even know, I'm trying to get my words out. Anybody who studies ancient history can actually attest that there was a man called Jesus Christ of Nazareth. So we got a lot of evidence. A lot of evidence. He is literally one of the most well-documented people, if not the most well-documented person in all of ancient history. So now that we can basically put to bed this idea that Jesus never existed, he definitely did. Okay? Now that we can put that to bed, we can talk about the evidence for the resurrection. All right, so all of this evidence is going to come from me just speaking. You guys can go and go and research this whole for yourself, but we've got it all pretty much lined up. We've got so much evidence that Jesus Christ existed. We've got so much evidence for his crucifixion and the evidence for his burial. Now, we know that it's a historical fact that Christ's body was not found in the tomb. Okay, there's a lot of speculation around this. It's also a historical fact that the Jews had asked Pilate to be granted soldiers to protect the tomb so that there could not be a hoax of the disciples stealing the body and saying, whoa, look, he's resurrected. So there's actually Roman guards there. And notice, I believe the Roman Empire at this point was the strongest empire, strongest army the world had ever seen. Now, let me just put that into perspective for you. You have got Roman soldiers, the strongest soldiers in the entire world, the most formidable warriors in the entire world, with their fighting skills, their bravery, their ability to commit violence, their armor, their fierce bravado, their weapons. Brother, do you honestly think the disciples, who, by the way, and I give all my respect to the disciples and the apostles, but when you look at the accounts of the disciples in the Gospels, they were a bit dull. I don't mean this in like a rude way, but like they saw Jesus' miracles time and time again. Yet they said some wacky stuff, right? Peter, denied Jesus after saying, I will die for you, after he saw him walk on water. He saw him heal the sick, the leprosy. He saw casting out the demons. He saw the feeding the 5,000. He saw water into wine. He saw all of these things. He even, was told the secrets to the kingdom of heaven, which we guys don't know, but they were told everything. And he said, I will die for you. I will go to prison for you. I will die for you. And Jesus says, will you die for me, Peter? Verily, verily, I say unto you that the cock will not crow until you've denied me 3 times. And what happens? He denied him. He said, I don't know this man. He swore, I don't know this man. 3 times. There's also an account in the Gospel of John where Jesus is going to go raise up Lazarus. And he basically says to them, he's dead. And Thomas says something along the lines of, well, then why don't we just roll over and die then? Bro, like, you're with Jesus. And that's crazy. When Jesus said to them, how are we going to feed these people? Philip said, I don't know, like, after seeing all of these miracles, he's like, I don't know, we don't have enough money. Like, what's going to happen? Bro, you just seen the Lord doing all this madness, all these miracles, and you're out here, like, questioning, worrying, right? So these were dull men. These were cowardly men. They just seen. Now imagine these people, which I talk about, not in any respect to these men, because they are wonderful. I can't find the words to describe it. They were the apostles of Jesus Christ. They were very special, important people, right? How would those men who were dull and cowardly overpower those Roman soldiers? You're trying to tell me that those men who they saw their Lord being butchered and crucified on that cross, and they knew they were next. What do you think they did? Do you think they were going to run over there and with their bare hands take out these Roman soldiers and steal the body? Absolutely no chance. So that gets refuted. The disciples did not steal the body. There's no chance they could have done that when you basically listen to everything I just said. Another theory is that the tomb was grave robbed. Right, this is okay. We can understand this because grave robbing back then was a very good way to make money. What people would do is they would rob graves. They would take the ointments, the oils, the silk, all of these things, go ahead and sell them. This happened back then. All you got to do is study the history, right? We're also going to, let's just say the guards weren't there. Let's make it easier for them. Let's say the guards weren't there. Why on earth would you take the ointments, the oils, the silk, the jewels, whatever people would bury people with, and then take the stinking rotten dead body? Oh, let's go and take this and have some fun with it. I don't mean to talk about that with the body of Jesus. You get what I'm saying? No chance. That does not make sense. Absolutely doesn't make sense. Another piece of evidence is, let me tell you something now. Yeah? Those Jews who persecuted Jesus, they did not want Christianity to spread. They wanted it to be put under a rock, under their feet. They wanted to crush it and just say, no more Jesus, no more Christianity, no more rising from the dead, no more Christ. Let's just carry on doing what we want to do. They didn't want it to be spreading. All they had to do to stop Christianity spreading was to show the dead body of Jesus. Why did they not do that? Like, imagine me and you, right? Imagine you say to me, hey, Jesus Christ is risen. I say, no, he ain't, bruv. Come, let's go. We run over to the tomb. All we got to do is be like, see the Jews be like, hey, here he is. He's dead. Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that if the body was there and they could have just shown it to him? It's crazy. And now we've got like 2 billion Christians in the world. All they had to do was show the body and Christianity would have just been dead in its tracks. Now, I'm going to basically do the last 2 pieces of evidence, kind of like jam-pack it in one. Okay, remember those apostles I talked about? Those amazing, wonderful, special men, right? Who we admitted were a little bit dull. When they saw their risen Lord from the dead, they weren't these dull cowards no more, right? Not only were they emboldened, were they empowered by the Holy Spirit, right, which came to them all at the day of Pentecost, they were all emboldened by the power of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And it's like they had completely been changed by Jesus Christ. At one time, they were dull cowards. The next, they were wise, brave men of valor. Maybe not of war, but they were very brave, courageous men. So courageous that they went back into the belly of the beast and proclaimed that Jesus Christ is risen and Jesus Christ is Lord for 40 years. So there was an actual change in their life. Like you see many Christians today. I was a drug addict and I couldn't even save up enough money to buy flipping food for the end of the week. And not to say I'm at the complete other end of the spectrum, but Jesus Christ has saved me. There's been a profound change in my life by the power of Jesus Christ. And so many people have experienced that, right? If it was just ink on paper, it was just a story, then why do I feel this love for him? Why do I have this genuine change in my life? Nothing has changed people more than Jesus Christ. And that was also first shown by those apostles, right? So they had a physical change. Now, probably the strongest piece of evidence there is that they had the opportunity to renounce Christ and they would have continued their days living. They were threatened with the prospect of suffering an incredibly brutal, horrific death. Some of them were crucified. It's written in church tradition that Peter was crucified upside down. But St. Bartholomew, I should really address them by their proper terms, St. Peter and St. Bartholomew. St. Bartholomew was skinned alive, right? St. James was stabbed to death. I can't remember all of those, but they suffered very horrific deaths. And they knew what they were going to go in for, right? Paul was stoned and whipped, and many of them were tortured, right? All they had to do to save themselves from that was to renounce Christ, denounce that he is Son of God, and call the emperor king. They didn't do it because they had seen their Lord risen, right? Many people, now there's a common refutation to this. Many people say, well, that's not good enough for me. Because I've seen many people die for beliefs. I've seen Sikh martyrs. I've seen Hindu martyrs. I've seen people potentially going on crazy hunger strikes or dying for their beliefs. That's okay. People can die for their beliefs. I will admit, many people don't usually die for something that they don't believe in. And they definitely don't die for something that is known to be a lie. I understand that. I understand that people will feel so strongly convicted about something that they will be willing to die for it. But there's a big difference between those apostles and virtually every single other person in all of human history who has died for a belief. These apostles didn't die for a belief. They didn't die believing that Jesus was the Son of God. They didn't die believing that he was the Christ. They didn't die for a belief that he rose from the dead. They died because they would not renounce the divinity and lordship of Jesus Christ because they saw him after he had died. Do you understand? They didn't die saying if I die today, I'm dying because of my belief. I'm not dying for what I've seen. I'm dying for my faith. They died for what they saw. No. They didn't die because, we believe that Jesus is the Son of God. No, they died because they saw their friend die and then they saw him alive. Nobody in all of history has ever died for that. Like me, I don't want to be blasphemous, but this could be my God. This mug, this wallet and grommet mug could be my God. And I could believe with my whole heart that this is my God. And that mug created the entire universe and I'm going to heaven with that mug. That's okay. I can believe that. I can believe it so strongly that I could be beheaded for it. Okay? But I didn't see someone die and rise from the dead. Does that make sense? There's only 11 people. The reason why I'm not saying 12 is because St. John is noted that he wasn't martyred. It's held by that he, died of old age in the island of Patmos. But all those apostles didn't die for a belief. They died because they saw their Lord risen after he had died. And when I put all this evidence together, I'm sorry. For me, the evidence is that Jesus Christ lived, died, rose again, and he's coming back. Like that's it. All the evidence is there. Now, I can't say that it's proof. Yes, it does take a leap of faith. We can choose to lie to ourselves and say that we live off absolute proofs when you know that you don't live off absolute proofs, right? We can lie to ourselves and say that and say, oh, unless I see, I can't believe it. You're lying to yourself, because there's many things that we see but we believe in. There's many things, pretty much everything in our life is evidence or faith based. We just choose to put our evidence, choose to put our life or our decisions where the evidence stacks up. And in my opinion, you can't get around this. It's all there. The evidence is all there. So instead of thinking like, oh, this is all, I don't know what to do, I'm scared, or I don't want to surrender. No, forget it. Jesus Christ is alive. If a man died and rose again, that should be something that we should be rejoicing because of everything that he spoke about, right? But obviously, some people may have hardened hearts or their eyes might not be opened. But that's it really for the video. All of the evidence is there. And there's probably a lot more evidence which I haven't spoken about. And I pray that the Lord brings it to my attention. And we can probably do a more detailed analysis on this. But I really hope that was insightful for you guys. And I really hope that the Holy Spirit convicts you. And, a seed has been planted today. And you will one day come to the Lord. Because it's not about subjugation. It's not about putting people under our feet. It's simply about the evidence that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. That is everything. There are some hard things to uncover when it comes to the Old Testament or just life itself. Suffering, pain. Why do we have all this? Well, let's just figure out, did Jesus Christ rise from the dead? If he did, then we can put our faith in him and be given the perfect gift of everlasting life. Or we can kind of figure out all those difficult questions later on. It is a leap of faith, but I don't think it's that hard to make. When you see all the evidence that we've just spoken about, I really do think that all of the evidence for this world points to Jesus Christ. So stop wasting time. Go and study the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and just figure it out for yourself. Is it worth putting your faith into or is it not? I'm just here to sow a seed and just do my job. But thank you guys. I love you so much. Thank you for allowing me to speak about that. Thank you for watching. If you like that, drop me a like. Do me a comment, what you enjoyed, maybe what you want to see next. And, if it's in your heart to subscribe, then please do so we can grow this channel and spread the love and evangelize about Jesus Christ of Nazareth. So thank you so much for watching, guys. God bless you. Have an amazing rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye for now.